got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Hey, it's me and Jeremy, right? We've got a new show, and it's called Dynasty Daddy 101s. It's exactly what it sounds like, right? We're just going to go through Dynasty Daddy every week, 2 weeks or so, depending on how Jeremy feels, because he's the mastermind. So he's probably more important to the show than me. But we're going to come on every week, 2 weeks, just go through some things. And we thought first week of the season, well, it's really second week of the season now, really be a great time to look at the start sit tool. So before I even do that, I guess I should have introduced you. So again, I'm Shane. Shane is the worst, in case you don't know. This is on my right. I have no idea what he's on your side, but this is Jeremy Dynasty Daddy. That is his actual last name, Dynasty Daddy. So say hello to the crowd, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you, Shane. That was a flawless intro. And yeah, I mean, I think something I've been working on most of the summer is a start sit tool. I'm very excited to be able to actually start using it and having people actually, I mean, no one wants to do start sit in the middle of July. So now that we're actually here, we can actually use it. I'm excited to be able to go through it and show off all the things that it can do. And also, how do you apply it and take it to its next step than just how do you, use it as a start sit tool every week.
All right. So let's not even belabor the point. There's not a lot of talking. Let's just bring up the start sit start sit.
We'll bring up the
tool. Yeah, no stools tonight. No stool samples. Bring up the start sit stool. I'm going to get it added to the stage, and there it is. It's pretty. I will say you did tell me beforehand, and we're going to have talk about this in our relationship. This is an IDP league, right?
This one's not. This one's actually your league.
Oh, you brought up my league. Oh,
It's confusing because the other league that is an IDP league, I have the same two quarterbacks in Kyler Murray and Jared Goff as well. So
Jeremy, it is not confusing. I don't have my glasses on. I am looking at fuzzy little men. Should
I zoom in?
I'm going to make my screen bigger. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this is actually my team. And
this is your team, yes. We can do the other one first if you want.
No. Let's do this so we don't lose the audience. Because as soon as we get the IDP, the retention's going to drop.
Okay.
So just real quick about this league. I don't know how many starters it is. I guess I should know that stuff. It's
you can count it up here. It's I don't know. What is that? 10? Start 10, it looks like.
Start 10, super flex. I believe there's a PPC because there is definitely a tight end premium 1.75. There's some variation of a PPC, either 1.5 or 2.0. I know that.
Where is it at? It's a start 11. I guess my counting is bad. PPR. All these stats. Is it point per carry? I don't see it in here.
Wow. Is there not a point per carry on this? Okay, good to know.
I don't think there is.
Rushing attempt 1.15. I saw it. At the bottom.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So that was cool. So we just jumped right over because you're logged in this league, but people don't want to hear about this. Let's get to the start sit tool. I got a ton of players that are of similar ilk. There's a Jacoby Myers, Demarcus Robinson, Devin Singletary. I think I could be making that up. There's a bunch of players. Brian Thomas, Adonai Mitchell, bunch of guys that aren't obvious starts. It's not obvious who to go with, and this is the perfect thing to use the tool for. So you go.
Yeah. So I will say this is when you're logged into your league. If you're not logged in, instead of having a team select up here where you can toggle between the teams, you'll get like a PPR, half PPR, general scoring settings. So you can use it without being logged in. But when you're logged in, what it will do is it'll pull in all the roster spots that you have to set up. You can toggle between any of them. So it will show you all the different, like what should my RB2 be? What should my wide receiver 2 be? And this kind of does a full page breakdown with all the projections of which one would be preferred. And then you have past production as well down here. And then also like the current matchup that they have in the upcoming week. And you can also add a player too if you're like, oh, I want to add.
I'm sorry. Go back real quick.
Yes.
It's given. This is the point spread.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, this is from ESPN Bet.
And the over under.
Yes, dude, over under in the spread.
how cool is that? I'm again, obviously, I'm touting your tool because otherwise I wouldn't be doing a show with you every couple weeks. But that's really cool because a lot of times when you're trying to figure out who do I start sit on your own, you got to then bring up the Vegas lines when it's close, and you're like, dude, which one's going to be the shootout? Because that's probably the one I want to go. But that's already actually integrated into this tool, so that's kind of dope, bro.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of when I was making it. I was like, what are the things people want to see? You know, I think a lot of times I've used other start sit tools, and it's like, oh, they're projected 50 rushing yards, but I don't know what that means, or like this is the information you want. Like, what do all these sources that I'd probably check regardless say? What does the past production look like? And then what is the current matchup and the spreads and things like that. And then down here, we also have just like a high level view of your recommended starting lineup. And then you can also toggle this feeling risky, which is like shoots for high upside. If players have crazy spike weeks, you can shoot for that.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, there's got to be a way to just set that on automatic for me. Just leave that
always
on the
go
field.
for upside.
Always shooting upside, bro. I don't care if I lose with a low score. I care if like a dude on my bench drops 30 points when I'm like, I should have started. But cutting you off.
No, you're good. I mean, it's one of those things. It's useful and it helps me in like tiebreakers, right? Like, and I also have it up here. They have the standard deviation, so you can look at the, like how much does it fluctuate between the averages. So it's like, okay, like Demarcus Robinson has a higher standard deviation than Terry McLaurin. So he actually probably has higher spike weeks than Terry McLaurin in the past, 18 weeks, or I think this is 18 weeks. But then there's also accuracy down here. So every week you can track the accuracy of each projection as well. I don't have some of the older ones, like since it's brand new, some of these say 0. But as we get new weeks, this will all have percentages of which one's more accurate. I think the biggest takeaway is you can see the most accurate one last week was 51%. So it's kind of still a 50-50. I mean, it's more of just a bunch of educated bets when it comes to how accurate the projections are. But that's kind of the general flow of the tool.
But the projections, obviously, as you get more data, start to what's the word? I'm not a data scientist, so I don't know the proper word. But the more data you get, the more better projections get that are based on data, I'm going to guess. So can you scroll back down to my team? Now, is this the team that your Dynasty Daddy is suggesting I start if I'm feeling like a coward and don't want to go risky?
Yes, this would be your recommended starting lineup in this league. So it's based on all the projections from these 6 sources. And then what we do is, whichever one has the highest percentage, that's the one that we go with for starting positions.
I'm just looking at what I picked just to show how smart I am. And really the only difference is I don't know. Brian Thomas. Is Brian Thomas in there?
Brian Thomas? I think Brian Thomas... It has Hopkins being a slightly better option than Brian Thomas.
Okay. Now, if you go into the feeling risky, let's see what changes there. Still Nook, Demarcus Robinson, Dev Singletary. That's the only one that kind of surprised me is, I guess, the Devin Singletary for the feeling risky, because I feel like I'm shooting floor with Devin Singletary as opposed to Seong with Brian Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And just based off of what I saw, and again, we're allowed to use our own brains, people. You can use this tool and then make some more decisions based off it. So I'm probably going to find a way to get Nook in there. Definitely not Devin Singletary until I see the Giants run a competent drive. Just one competent NFL football drive. If I could see one competent drive, that's all I'm looking for.
And I agree with that as well. I mean, one thing to note for the feeling risky is it does use like standard deviation. And since, Brian Thomas has only played 1 game, there's not a lot of data to be able to pull for Brian Thomas of, what's his range of scoring. Right now, he scores 15 points every week, and that's the only week that matters.
That's pretty good.
If you knew that he'd always score 15, you'd start him.
If he starts, just put this out there. If he scores 15 points a game, that's not as good as Puka last year, who I don't want to talk about right now.
Yeah, it's a sore subject.
Very, very high cohort. I believe Tank Dell was at 15 points a game. I could be wrong off the top of my head. I
think so. I mean, Tank Dell was very high. I remember that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, right? So the fact that I even have to use this tool, for me at least, means that I have too many players that are in the similar bucket, right? I got a Jacoby Myers, DeAndre Hopkins, Dev Singletary. I think we saw Adonai Mitchell in there.
Adonai Mitchell,
Terry McLaurin, DeMarcus Robinson. Right. So to me, I have a lot of redundancy. So do you have any tools that could help me maybe look for ways to move some of these redundant players?
It's a perfect segue. Yes, so we do offer a trade finder as well. The easiest way I explain it is if you ever played 2K, you can easily just select what players you want to trade away and what you want, and it will try to make trades that you can go out and actually, talk to the managers and get deals done. So say, who do you want to move?
Let's put Jacoby, Singletary, and let's keep it at the wide receivers because then that's where we can thin it out. So Jacoby, Terry McLaurin, and Nook.
Who's Nook?
Nuke Hopkins. Come on, bro.
I think it's Nook, not Nuke.
Well, I did say Nook.
Okay.
I believe it's Nook. If it's wrong, let me know in the comments. I believe it's Nook Hopkins, not Nuke Hopkins.
It might be Nook now. It used to be Nuke.
Oh.
But yeah, here it says, and now I will say this is using Keep Trade Cut, so there you got to take some, grain of salt with it. But
real
if you
quick,
can consolidate,
dude. I mean, I've gave Keep Trade Cut some shit 3 years ago, whenever it burst on the scene. But it is an accurate reflection of how people play the game, and I know that being in, we'll say 35 dynasty leagues. In 35 dynasty leagues, I make a number of trades. I have made this week somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 trades. Some more than one in just one league, or like two in one league. But it's a pretty accurate reflection. But there are other. I'm just going to say that. I'll just put that out there. KTC, I think, is a pretty accurate reflection of how people play.
Well, I also agree. I think Keep Trade Cut kind of gets a bad rap a lot of times. I think it's probably the most accurate in terms of just what people's opinions on players are. Does it always mean you can get that price? Probably not, but you can easily identify trends of which players people care about and which ones people don't. So I do agree with that. It's like, in a vacuum, if you just keep trading cut a player, there's no strings attached. It's not based on, startup drafts or trades or anything like that. It's just who do you like more?
So is the trade finder telling me to combine all three of these players and try to consolidate them for one of those players?
That's what I did. Is I said, okay, let's look for a wide receiver or pick. This is usually how I like to use it. If I do all of them, I kind of just get a bunch of random deals.
Yeah.
But typically I'm like, okay, I'm targeting one thing and then I add picks. So it's like, it either will even out a trade that's like a tier down. I could get something in a second, or a tier up where it's like tossing a third or something. But, like they have like something like this where it's like a first in Isaiah McKenzie's like, but I do think kind of like a consolidation to get like a DK Metcalf or like a Debo or something like that could make more sense for your roster, and at least technically via the trade calculator be a fair trade.
Yeah, and so we'll talk about this, right? Part of the reason you don't want redundant players is because you are going to make mistakes on who to play. It's just going to happen when there's a bunch of dudes that are in the same bucket. There's going to be weeks that you just don't know. And there's going to be weeks, even when we're using the the start sit tool. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
The start sit tool, not stool. That it's going to get it wrong. So that, you want to get rid of these redundant players. And part of that is, if you can consolidate these players for a Debo Samuel, I also free up 2 more roster spots where I can go to the waiver wire and pick up something. And you could say, you're not going to get anything useful on the waiver wire. And I say to you, Tyler Johnson, Demarcus Robinson, Justice Hill, a bunch of dudes, Alan Lazard, a bunch of these dudes after week 1 were on the waiver wire. So there might be names on there right now that you don't particularly like that you are going to like in week 3 when you're after week 2 when you're hitting the waiver wire, which we can also use Dynasty Daddy to
well, yeah, here's your current waiver wire right now. But I mean, even from just like a, you free up 2 spots and then you pick up what, Alec Pierce? It's like, or something, like I'm not the biggest fan of picking up random wide receivers, but I mean, you can pick up random running backs or quarterbacks or whoever you like. It's an easy way. I mean, freeing up a roster spot has a lot of value. That kind of changed up the way I played Dynasty when I was like, wait a minute, just consolidating frees up roster spots. It kind of changes, like it's free value at that point.
It is. All right. So we got some start sit advice. I got to go actually on here and make some changes. I think I'm going to try to squeeze DeAndre Hopkins in. I am a risk taker. I'm actually going to squeeze DeAndre Hopkins in over Jacoby Myers is what I think. That's what I think I'm going to do. I've got obviously several days before this is actually, I got to make this decision. That's the other thing. I can wait until Sunday, pull this out. That's probably what I'm going to do. The Vegas line could change. Who knows? That Tennessee Titan game could really spike. Probably not. So Jeremy, appreciate you. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah. I mean, obviously dynastydaddy.com. It's the site that's up here now and the site that, hopefully you use. And if you don't, definitely check it out. Also on Twitter, Dynasty Daddy FF. And that's probably the best places to, I'm also in the Destination Devi Discord as well, or DD Fantasy now. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the site or want my opinions on things.
All right. And most of you know where to find me. So if you're still here, knowing that I hosted this show, cool. Just hit me up if you need anything. But I appreciate everybody watching, and we will be back. Excuse me. We will be back in, I don't know, another week, 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks is the goal. But if something happens where I feel like we really need to highlight the tool, we're gonna jump in there. And also in the comments, feel free to take a look at Jeremy's site and see if there's anything you want us to dig deeper into. Jeremy's going to dig deeper into it. I'm just going to talk. I don't know what I'm doing. So appreciate you, everyone. We'll talk to you later.